President Obama meeting with British Prime Minister David Cameron, and they penned an op-ed piece together in the Times of London saying, "We will not be cowed by barbaric killers," maybe signaling more aggressive military action. The U.S. has already said there will be no boots on the ground, but they have not ruled out the possibility of airstrikes in Syria.
Hamas, Al-Qaeda, the Taliban, Hezbollah, ISIS, just a scant few of the terrorist organizations around the world that claim to be fighting for freedom. Yet their backstory belies something much more dangerous and insidious. These and so many more have the Islamic faith in their thought process, seeking to make the world a better place, but only if that world follows their religion. The rise of ISIS brings up a controversial and very sore subject, what some have termed a supremacist agenda of those determined to change the way of life to bend with their religion, doing it legally, out in the open, but still seeking to make others bend to their will. Welcome back to MidPoint. The director of Jihad Watch and the author of numerous books, including Arab Winter Comes to America, The Truth About the War We're In, Robert Spencer. Robert, thanks so much for being here again today.
Ed, a pleasure. Thank you.
Robert, we're going to start off, first of all, with some late-breaking news here. This, according to the Clarion Project and the Arabic paper Al-Madayim. A U.S. airstrike has killed the top aide to the Islamic State's caliph, Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi. This according also to the Iraqi Defense Ministry. The strike hit the city of Mosul, which the Islamic State has controlled since June. Another Islamic State figure was also killed in the strike. If indeed this is true, and we have no reason to believe it's not, it's coming from various sources, what does this then mean in the battle against ISIS and what it may or may not do to the overall setting of their hierarchy now in running things in this Islamic State?
The thing I think we have to remember about this, Ed, is that the Islamic State is not a movement based around a charismatic leader. A lot of people thought that about Al-Qaeda. They thought bin Laden, it's all going to collapse when he dies, and it didn't. It's the same thing here. This is a movement based on a belief system, on an ideology, on a religion. And the religion, the ideology, the belief system doesn't go away with the killing of this man. He may have been a good strategist, a good tactician, somebody they might not easily be able to replace, but there is no shortage of Muslims, even from around the world, who are going to Iraq and Syria to wage jihad for the Islamic State, and they are not going to be cowed by the killing of a few of their leaders.
In your opinion, will this do anything in the immediacy of tactics when it comes to ISIS now that their number one is supposedly dead?
Well, it could stymie them, but I don't think they have any shortage of tacticians. I don't think it was this one man who was able to make them the wealthiest terrorist group in the world, or enable them to do what no jihad terror group had done before them, that is, capture and rule a huge expanse of territory with no apparent end in sight.
This comes down to what we're talking about here, and that is what people are calling the Islamic supremacist agenda. You and I also talked about this as well here in the past. There are those, quite frankly, who see this as a rights organization, if you will. People put together supremacist organizations. Their ultimate goal is to implement Sharia law everywhere around the world. All right, now let's take that for what it is right now, that there is religion behind a tremendous amount of these terrorist groups right here. There are those people saying, wait a minute, how can it be that this infiltrates all of these groups? When we talk about agenda, doesn't that really get us very close to being almost racist against those who worship Islam everywhere around the world, who may have absolutely no belief in the need to take over the planet and make everybody bend to their religion?
Well, this is an important point, Ed, and I appreciate you bringing it up because it needs to be emphasized so that this is not a racial issue in the slightest. There are Islamic supremacists of all races, and there are peaceful Muslims of all races. And the fact that there are peaceful Muslims who have no interest in imposing Islamic law on the rest of us, unfortunately, does not eradicate or do anything to stop the imperative that other Muslims believe that they have to do just that, to impose Islamic law upon non-Muslims, including the aspects of it that deny basic rights to non-Muslims and enforce their subjugation under the hegemony of the Muslims.
There are many people here in America right now who look at a number of things that are happening. There recently was an instance where at a small restaurant in a small town, they were announcing the fact that they served bacon. And they had a woman who claimed to be of Islamic faith who was very offended by it, went to the town, went to the restaurant and complained. The restaurant then took the sign down because she said it was offensive to her. A number of people in America see these different things happening right now, and they say that this is going too far. We don't need to always bend to people simply because they're offended by something. But I'm going to bring up the point here again. Is it not fair to say that there are those who see part of this as that Islamist supremacist agenda? It's our way or the highway sort of thinking.
Well, I don't think there's any doubt that that's what it is, Ed, because there are so many of these incidents. I can give you so many examples. The Department of Justice forced the Berkeley School District right outside Chicago to pay $75,000 to a Muslim teacher, Safura Khan, because she had demanded as a first-year public school teacher 3 weeks off to go on the pilgrimage to Mecca. And they said, well, you know, the pilgrimage to Mecca, you only have to do it once in your lifetime. You're 29 years old. You can do it when it comes around in the summertime. You don't need to take 3 weeks out of the school year to do this. And she sued and won. And so this reinforces the principle that wherever there is special accommodation, wherever Muslims demand special accommodation, above and beyond the rights that non-Muslims have, they must be given it. In the J.B. Swift meatpacking plants, the Department of Justice successfully forced the plants to give special breaks to the Muslim employees after they had walked off the line for Ramadan. And they now have these extra break times that the non-Muslims don't have. Here again, special privileges for Muslims. A Muslim woman is suing Disney and also the amusement parks, Boomers in California and Playland in New York, demanding that they be allowed to wear hijab. Boomers and Playland forbade the hijab along with all headgear on some of their rides because it's hazardous. It could get caught in the machinery and kill somebody. But that doesn't stop the demands for special accommodation. They said, we don't care about the safety. We only care that that special accommodation be given to Muslims. We don't care about Disney's dress code that's been in place since 1957. We only care that Muslims be out front in hijab so that we can show our presence here. People don't realize that all these examples I've given you and many others I could give you if time permitted are part of a supremacist agenda being carried out by groups like the Hamas-linked Council on American Islamic Relations to establish that principle that Muslims must have accommodation and special privileges in America.
Couple of things coming to mind in it. Who is running this agenda then, in your opinion? And how do we then split the difference in all this so you and I sitting here today are not seen as being just part of the problem and doing nothing more than fomenting hate against people simply because of what they believe in?
Well, you know, Ed, it's not a matter of hate to say, let's have equal rights for all people and equality of all people under the law and no special rights for special classes. There's nothing hateful about that, and that's all that I stand for. And when I see groups like, and I think in answer to your first question, the groups that are behind it are the Muslim Brotherhood groups in the United States, the Council on American Islamic Relations, the Islamic Society of North America, the Muslim American Society, and so on, all demonstrably linked by the Justice Department to the Muslim Brotherhood. It's not hate to oppose their supremacist agenda. It's actually hate to advance it.
You mentioned CARE, the Council on American Islamic Relations. There are those who say that they have three main goals in this country and every place for that matter. Silence all criticism of anything related to Islam, including Islamic terrorism, seeking to Islamize the workplace, and also work actively to hamper American national security. If that's true, then who's running this agenda then? How is it stoppable? How do you then put an end to it so that, again, you are not being seen as somebody simply going after a religion?
Well, it's not, you know, there are many Muslims, as we've discussed here already, who are not pursuing this agenda, and I'm grateful that they exist. I wish they were more energetic in opposing this, but the fact is, a captured internal document of the Muslim Brotherhood detailed their strategy in the United States as working toward eliminating and destroying Western civilization from within and sabotaging its miserable house. And it named the groups that were pursuing this agenda in the U.S., and they were those Muslim groups that I enumerated before: the Islamic Society of North America, the Muslim American Society, and the parent group of the Council on American Islamic Relations. And so this is not a matter of working against someone's religion. It's a matter of working for justice against a frankly seditious and supremacist agenda.
So then how do we, I still want to get there. I got about a minute and a half left. So how do we then fight this and overcome this so we are not seen as being hate mongers?
Well, it's part of the strategy of these groups to tar, smear, and vilify anybody who speaks about this as bigoted and racist and hate-mongering. The only thing we can do in the face of that is to point out that that is what they do. They are working against free speech. They do have this agenda. It is not hateful to oppose them. And I applaud you for being one of the very few media outlets that's willing to discuss this honestly. I wish there were 100 of you.
Do we need to go after the politicians then? Is this a political problem where we have, and let's not just bring one person into it here because everybody's going to go right to the president, of course, but does this then cover a much wider swath of land here. Those who simply are, in many ways, allowing this to happen, we need to go after them and address them.
Oh, absolutely, Ed. And it's not just one person. It is the president, but it's not just the president. This is actually a bipartisan problem. There are no significant politicians on the national scene right now. Well, I should say very few. Congressman Gomert in Texas and a few others are doing great work on this, but there are very few politicians who are willing to take this problem by the horns to speak about it honestly. And so we need to be calling upon our elected officials to drop the politically correct nonsense and to work to protect the principle of equality of rights of all people before the law.
That's the thing, equality of rights for everyone here in America. I think that's very, very important. Once again, the book, Arab Winter Comes to America, The Truth About the War We're In. Robert Spencer, nice enough to join us here again on MidPoint. Robert, always a pleasure. We'll talk to you again very soon.
Thank you, Ed.
All right, later on this hour, using domestic violence as a comparison point for a political attack. Open mouth, insert foot for the head of the Democratic National Committee. It's all coming up right here on MidPoint.